Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of the Blacklist. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. It's actually a really neat episode where we get Liz's perspective on everything up till now. Because I think this episode is kind of a necessary thing after everything, because obviously Liz has kind of been absent for a while, but I think that's such an interesting thing of like, we've kind of gotten one side of things, and there's always two sides of the story. Technically, there's always three sides. Person A, person B's, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. And and that's the thing. We've always gotten one side of things, and that's always been the truth, but we've never really been able to get into Liz's psyche. Because I think this is such an interesting thing, because I can't speak for the entire fan base of the Blacklist. How I've gotten some feedback just from like the limited interactions of small group of people who like watch my reviews and share their thoughts about certain things when it comes to the Blacklist. So some people aren't too keen on the path that Liz has been taking for the past couple episodes on her revenge, her path of doing a lot of shady, messed up stuff just to take down Reddington. But I think this episode did a necessary thing to kind of make you understand her perspective. Her perspective's always been there, but it's just been a thing of, man, we've seen her do these things. And the interesting thing is, when you've seen her do these terrible things and not actually seen her face while she's done it, it kind of makes it a little more like, oh, Liz, how could you? But now we've seen her face. And the thing is, it's not like she was perfectly happy with every decision she had to make. It was more so like, damn, she's disgusted by a lot of stuff that she had to do. Like even getting her Cyranoid to kill Mary. She threw up afterwards because it's like, yeah, it's not like Mary was a good person. She's a chemical person. She's a terrible human being, but it's still a thing of, I'm not a murderer. Like, at least if I kill anyone, it was out of self-defense or as part of my job. I'm taking, I'm trying to, I'm at least doing things, trying to do things in its lawful manner. And like, now this is just kind of like no. And what I thought was so interesting is that like, she's seeing Kate, Mr. Kaplan is the one that kind of has been leading her this entire time, because for her it's like subconsciously she knows what's needed to be done, because the only person she's known that's come that close to taking down Reddington is Kate. Kate dismantled his operations back in season 4, so it's a situation of like, of course, like, because Kate was someone that is so near and dear to Liz's heart, more so than she even knew at the time. But it's like, obviously she cared deeply for Kate, but it was also like Kate was there when she was a baby, like obviously her and I'm also surprised that never came up in conversation the entire time with Katarina, was the fact is of like, right, you also have to consider the whole angle of Kate. I don't think that came up at all last season at all. Like, maybe I'm not remembering her bringing up Mr. Kaplan at all. But regardless, I guess it's because she's mainly been doing things on her own for so long. Plus, Kate was like by Reddington's side for so much of that too. So it's kind of like, that's probably why like maybe Katarina didn't have like the best memories and stuff like that of anything to really say about Mr. Kaplan. Once again, like I just never thought, I didn't even think about that at all last season until just now. I was like, huh, it is interesting. She never once, once again, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe she did reference Kate, but I was like, I don't remember. But once again, to be fair, that was like last season, that was a while back. So, but regardless, it's a situation, like I said, it makes sense why she would like choose that to be the person who kind of tells her what's necessary. It's like, you're gonna have to do some stuff you're not gonna like, but you need to become Reddington. So like, once again, we're getting her perspective on everything. Like, obviously it's like, her justifications for a lot of stuff, like hearing her being like, okay, we'll do the thing with the plane, don't worry about it, I'll back channel some information, the task force will be able to stop it. Granted, yes, you still put a lot of people's lives in danger for a gamble to like, get Mary on your side. So there's that. Killing Mary, making the deal with Townsend. She didn't even want to talk to Townsend because she was like, damn it, I don't like the dude. Dude hunted my mom for so damn long. I mean, because to start this off, we never found out. I mean, maybe if we go back, we can find out who it is, but there was a Mr. French. And it's like, oh yeah, like Liz is like, oh, he helped my mom. So the moment I meet up with him, I'll be able to meet up with all the connections my mom has. It's like, wow, that's like, okay, so that's why you turned to Townsend, because you literally had no other choice. He wasn't your, because I was wondering if that is like, oh, that's not even your first choice. It should make sense considering he hunted your mom, that he wasn't going to be your first choice of like, an ally to turn to under the circumstances. It was a Mr. French, but you couldn't get in contact with him. Later on, he shows up dead. I'm going to have to go back is he someone that Reddington took care of? Maybe it might have been someone that like Rakitin or Reddington's friend from the East like took care of. Like maybe there's something on that, or maybe it is just something Reddington handled. But I don't. Like I said, my terrible memory, but I don't remember anything about a Mr. French, but it is just a thing of like, it's just kind of implied like he did do it, so it might have been something that was brought up like, oh, that this Mr. French thing, like this how it, maybe it was brought up earlier in the season, kind of like, oh, maybe that seemed like it was, innocuous, like it was just some random thing, but now we realize that, oh, it's connected to Liz's story, like it's why she kind of ended up joining up with Townsend. I mean, who knows who Liz would be right now, where, like how everything would have fallen out and where things would be, and if she would have just been able to meet up with Mr. French. Like, working with Townsend made her become someone she didn't recognize. Well, it kind of made her into Reddington to a certain extent, but, like, because everything she ever did, like, Kate was there to be like, you have to do this, you can't stop. She didn't want Dembe kidnapped. It's like, obviously, they were going for Reddington. It's like, damn it, no, Dembe, don't torture him. It's like, oh, he already got away. And because you even have Townsend kind of coming at her from the perspective of, oh, like she's kind of failing on some part. It's like, no, you're the one that kidnapped Dembe. Eventually, you're the one that kidnapped Reddington. You wanted answers so badly. I wanted him dead immediately, but you said you need an answer, so that's why we had to go about this whole rigmarole. The fact of the matter is, did I not stick around while you were torturing him? Yes, I'm not cool with that. I'm not fine with it. It sickens me. But yes, the ends justify the mean of like, I was still on board with do whatever you got to, as long as we kill Reddington at the end. It's like, so she's like, don't blame me. I literally got you, Reddington. You're the one that kind of screwed the pooch on the situation. Even the Rudiger situation is actually sad because you're like, oh, it's not like Rudiger. I mean, to be fair, we saw his hand and everything, but Liz came to him at first. He was like, no. And then like Neville shows up, which obviously Liz didn't want things to kind of go down the way they did, but they went down the way they did. She had objections, but it's also a thing of she sat on the sideline and let that happen. So it is this complicated thing because it's just like, at first, it's just kind of like, all right, I do what I got to do, then I can get my life back. Hearing wrestlers' calls about Rakitin, oh, maybe this is almost over, especially because she's spending so much time away from Agnes. It's like, yes, Agnes is safe. She's with Mr. French's, Philip, with his wife, but at the very least, she's thinking like, when this is over, like she's believing wrestlers' words of like, hey, you can have your life back. You can be with Agnes. You might not be an agent anymore, but your life will finally kind of be yours again. And, so like I said, I don't know if this episode shifted things for people where they're still like, because I'm curious for some people, and do let me know in the comments down below how you feel about it. Did this episode kind of change how you feel about Liz, seeing that like, okay, she wasn't 100% okay with everything, because even if she's not okay with everything, she still went along with it, so that still might be enough for you to be like, I'm not cool with Liz. Because the thing is, I can admit my bias. I'm very forgiving for a lot of stuff Reddington does. It's like, I know he's done some terrible stuff. He should have handled things a lot differently than he did. But I'm also someone that recognizes, like, but Liz doesn't know everything. We, as the audience, don't know everything that Reddington knows. It's like, I know what's going on and no one else does. Once again, we still are unaware what his end game is. But even then, it's like, despite what Liz want to look at Reddington as, there's stuff that he did that she doesn't know about, like Cooper's life being in danger and stuff like that, Reddington being the one to save it, putting his friend from the East in play. It's like, yo, we might have this connection. We built this criminal empire together again. When I tell you don't try to kill Cooper, I run things. Don't get it twisted. You forget who you're dealing with. Once again, I'm telling you, I love that line, the whole Rakitin situation. So it's like, so Liz will never probably know that side of things. She just knows her perspective, and I think that presents an interesting thing that like there are things that we as the audience knows that the task force also knows now to a certain extent that Liz doesn't know. I mean, granted, there's also the Park situation. That's a little element that Liz doesn't know about, that no one else knows about, but it's kind of a thing of, someone helped kill Rakitin because someone here helped kill Rakitin. I'm also surprised too we didn't get to spend more. I mean, we see to a certain extent, but like we don't get a lot of time with Liz's team, the team she ended up kind of building and stuff like that. We didn't get too much time with them, but we got introduced to them and stuff like that. I guess that's just kind of like the main role they were kind of supposed to like serve and stuff like that. But after the Rakitin thing, Liz kind of was almost giving up because it's like, okay, no matter what I do, I can't take down Reddington, but Philip's wife, it's like, I need justice because we both know who's responsible for what happened to my husband. So you need to, good wins over evil. Love always wins in the end. Your mother, she did what she did for your sake, and you're doing what you're doing for your daughter's sake as well. So it is a situation of you've got to, you've got to do this. And it's like, so Liz came at things from a different perspective. This is interesting, like how she found out about Anne. She ended up getting Denbei's daughter involved. It's like, your dad's in trouble because like your dad's caught up in this lie. She thinks that even he doesn't know who Reddington really is. It's like Denbei's probably one of the, I don't know if Liz is saying that just to like fit the narrative she's trying to create, or whether it is just legitimately she thinks Denbei doesn't know. Like, once again, I don't think Reddington is in 13. I think it's a role, once again, people just cast him in. He was like, yeah, sure, I'm in 13. Like, first of all, like, once again, I bring up the Ilya Kozlov thing. It's like, I never claimed to be Ilya Kozlov. Dom told you was, I just never told you I was. I just never corrected you. Like, so I think it's kind of something I've always kind of thought for, like, that's always kind of been the thing of like, I'm not in 13. Just people claim and make me seem like I'm in 13, but I never actually ever claimed to be in 13. I just play the role and pretend like maybe to his friend from the East, maybe he has lied to him, but like, once again, I always say, like, I don't think Reddington's ever lied to anyone. He's always told the truth, or at the very least he's admitted certain aspects of the truth, but he's always been truthful to Liz and everyone around him. He won't always fully tell you his motives of like, yeah, he's doing something, and yes, he'll have his own motives behind it, but he's always very truthful and upfront about like what things are to a certain extent, and then eventually be like, yeah, this was actually why I really wanted to do this, because it's going to benefit me, like everything Reddington does, But her running into like and setting that, well, regardless, I was about to skip over it, but going back to what I was saying, like getting Denbei's daughter involved by being like, the fact of the matter is your daughter got mixed up in everything because Solomon came here, took your daughter to get to Denbei, to get to Reddit. So it's like eventually you're going to have to explain to your daughter, like, what happened to her and, explain that, like, no, it's never going to happen. But it's like, no, as long as Reddington's in all of our lives, it's going to happen. That's going to be a lie. Like, that it's never going to happen again. So, you helping me now is going to help get Reddington out of your life. So, she helps put a tracker on, the listening device on Denbei, and obviously she hears about Anne and everything. And it's like, oh, you're letting your guard down. Reddington be like, I'm not. And then Denbei looks at him. He's like, okay, I am. But he's like, I'm having so much fun with him. Denbei just kind of looks at him. And he's just like, and just like kind of taps Denbei's on the shoulder. So it's like, once again. But her running into Anne like that, I'm like, oh my God, I'm Cindy, blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't even till the end of the episode, she's like, yeah, my friend Cindy in the camp. I was like, right, I didn't remember that last episode. I was like, wow, Cindy. I didn't piece that together. I was like, right. I was like, interesting. Wow. Okay, Liz. But even she wasn't okay with the way things went down with that either. Like the cops and everything. I figure she wouldn't. She's a cop, well, she was. But, it's also like, not just because they're cops, that's a element to it, but it's also they're innocent people. Like Liz is, and it's that whole conversation from Neville about the space. There can be no space between what you want and what you're willing to do. So basically, it's like you basically can't like include like your feelings and stuff like that. You got to bury that deep inside. Obviously, Kate is saying the same thing to Liz, but it's still just kind of a thing of, I can't. Like, she can't compartmentalize, And I think that's what separates her from Reddington. That despite what Liz does and says, like, she can't completely shut off her heart. She wears her heart on her sleeve, like, And I think her humanity is her greatest asset. She's been trying to shut it down, but it's been there the entire time. So it is a thing of where it's like, I don't think she's a monster. Like, we've kind of had the perspective of kind of making us feel like she's becoming. Like, yes, she's crossed some lines, but it's still a thing of it's all weighing on her. The fact is, the moment it stops weighing on her it's the issue. Because even Reddington, it's like, a lot of stuff doesn't weigh on him, but there are things that weigh on him that you don't think would, But it is just this interesting thing of like, like I said, I'm so curious how people feel about it. Like, did this episode shift a lot of people's perspectives on how they've been feeling about Liz lately? I don't know. Maybe it's changed things. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe it's pushed things, the narrative for them in a certain direction for a little, like kind of made them go, all right, I'm a little more understanding, a little more sympathetic. I don't agree with everything she's done. Like, that's how I'm feeling. Like, I've always kind of understood why Liz has done what she's done. I just feel like you're kind of crossing a lot of lines. But like I said, seeing that how reluctant she's been, that is kind of like, it's like, I got to go with the flow. I got to do this. I got to become this if I want to stop Reddington. Because this is, she feels like this is all she has. It's like, I have to do this, But the fact that she feels she needs to do it, like, that's where things kind of get complicated for me. But, that's crazy. I even love the fact that Liz had showed up right before Reddington, and she was like, no, I'm gonna get out of here. But here's the cake and everything, blah blah blah, and kind of bounced. But once again, innocent people getting involved. It's like, once again, you did all this. You shot up a police station. You killed a lot of innocent people, and what was it for? Nothing. We've got nothing to show for it. Reddington's gone. You didn't get him. And it's like, but for Liz, it's like, fine, I'll have Reddington all to myself. I know where he's hiding, so I'm going to go after him. So ends up, and oh God, I heard about, it's crazy. They're talking about in town what happened. And she's like, oh, Cindy, I was just about to call you and everything like that. I would have been suspicious, like, oh, it's interesting that you just happened to show right now. But it's like, you let a lot of stuff slide considering the crazy date Anne had. But then Liz is like, all right, the fact of the matter is, I'm going to do this. I need to know where Reddington is. And it's like, you're one of them. Kate says yes, Liz says no. But it's like, we want the same thing. And it's like, oh, well, here he is. And we get the confrontation from at the end of the episode. And it's like, Liz, put the gun down. And it's like, yeah, you and Kate underestimated. And Reddington saying, so she's here. It's like, wait, you can see her? He's like, yeah, without even having to look at that. Because I guess for him, it's like, oh, everything you're doing, it's like, oh, it's right out of not just my playbook, but Kate's. Because, once again, Kate tried to dismantle him, do exactly what Liz is doing right now. So, like, he's been through this before, so he feels probably Kate's presence in it. But it's also probably, it might be a thing of, Reddington probably lives and carries the ghost of everyone he's ever killed, even though he'll probably shrug it off. I'm sure Katerina, and once again, I guess that is I still just feel like there's a twist to that Katerina thing, but I guess it's like, no, she is straight up dead. It's just like, the fact is that, like, her body, the way they handled that just made me, that's why I kind of felt like, he took her body and everything, because I guess he just didn't want to take the chance anyone tries to resuscitate. I don't know. Because I was like, what other reason would you have for keeping her body? That still never got answered. You've been sitting on that body for like over what? She died episode 2 of the season. He's had that body for, and it's been like 3 months before since Liz went on her like revenge and kind of took Reddington's money and bounced. So it's like, he's been sitting on that body more than 3 months. So that's why I'm like, I'm sure they dispose of it and stuff like that, but that was like 3 months ago. That's why I'm like, why bother? Like, that's why I'm still feeling like there's going to be an ulterior motive to that. But once again, it's probably just moved past that of like, they just got rid of her body. Don't worry about it. You're thinking too hard about it. Strong possibility on my front, but I'm still keeping that in the back of my mind of like, I still think there's still something suspicious about how that whole Katerina thing went down, but regardless. But part of me wonders is like, has Reddington been seeing Kate as well? But like I said, it could just be that he can see Kate's actions all over. Maybe it's like he's been in Liz's position. Well, he actually has. We've seen him like hallucinate. Like he hallucinated Katerina. Like there was a whole episode dedicated to that because we as the audience didn't know it was Katerina, but it turned out to be Katerina. What was I going with that? But the whole point is like, so maybe that's why he kind of recognizes it. But whatever the case may be, Liz is like, oh, she doesn't even know who you realize. He's like, fine, let Anne go. Like, this is just between, and it's like, fine. And Liz is like, that's exactly what I want because she doesn't want more innocent people dragged in this. Anne fights back a little bit. You're like, oh boy. And Anne hits her head on a table and it's like, ugh, yikes. And is bleeding badly. You're like, oh boy. Because someone literally, because I just, catching up with all my reviews and stuff like that, still in the process. I still got some stuff from Sunday, and I got to do the brief. Regardless, tangents and all that. Someone had just like hit me up, like being like they don't want to see Liz kill Anne, and it's like, well, she didn't like do it. It was an accident. Anne like it was a struggle and hit her head. Very similar to like wrestler and the lady that was from the Cabal. Once again, I always forget. Is it Christine, or is it Christina Lottie? I can never remember. But Miss Lottie's character. So, I kind of lost myself there a little bit. Right, it was kind of reminiscent of that to a certain extent, but it's like it was an accident, and like obviously Reddington's trying to help her, and it's like Kate's like, okay, got it, pull the trigger. Once again, the whole conversation is don't stop. Like, I couldn't go all the way, and that's, don't make my same mistake. Like, you have the opportunity in this now. And I think Liz maybe seeing Reddington like that, it's just kind of like, no, like the way he's concerned over her like this, I can't, it's like, damn it, this isn't what I wanted. This didn't go the way I wanted it. And you see, that's a lot of blood, dude. I cross my fingers hoping Anne makes it, but I don't know, dude. I think, dude, he already wants Neville. He wants Neville dead. He's like, oh, I'll show you, once again, that line of, I'll show you how to really exact revenge. But now it's also Liz crossed the line that, it's like, once again, I never want you to be across that river. Maybe you're already there, but it's like, she inadvertently killed Anne, like someone that's very important to Reddington. So it's like, someone that's important to him killed another person that's important to him. So it's like, what the fuck's that? What's that going to look like next episode? That's going to be the big question, because Liz ended up disappearing. So whether she's going to still see Kate next episode is going to be the interesting thing, because obviously I love the line of like, oh, you think you know who Red really is, because once again, Liz has it set in her mind, because the reason why Neville did everything he did was because it's like, oh, I need to understand what happened to my family and why. It's like he was in bed with people and their business got exposed, and it's because of what's in the archive, and he thinks, because all that was gathered by N13, and so he needs to know if it's Reddington. He needs to confirm it, because he needs to know what Reddington's plan is with the archive, especially because it's like, it can't really do much for Townsend now. Well, I don't think it can hurt. I don't know, like, if it still can hurt him in any shape or form, because it's already hurt him enough by killing his family, getting his family killed. Because they wanted the people that were screwed over by Townsend being exposed, because it exposed their business. It was like a Russian group that it was like, so, which I'm wondering, does that have any ties with what the hell Reddington's up to with his pal from the East? Like, I wonder, is there any correlation with that? Maybe those groups are connected. Whatever the case may be. I think we're finally potentially going to get another confrontation, but probably like a full episode dedicated, because I'm sure for Liz it's like, damn it, I didn't mean to do that. But it's also at the end, you didn't go through with things. Now Reddington's going to be pissed. You had your shot, you didn't take it. So it's like, are you still willing to kind of go down this path for war? Like, what's Reddington's response going to be? Like, as I was avoiding a preview as much as possible, but it is a thing of, is Reddington, you think you know who Reddington is, so we're going to be a step closer to potentially revealing that. At the very least, I think we're going to reveal the fact is he is an N13. I think the episode won't tell us who he is, but at the very least, I think it's going to tell us who he's not. He's not Raymond Reddington. He's not Ilya Koslov. He's not N13, I believe. So, once again, I'm very, very interested to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. I think we are going to get a lot more Liz going forward, like more FaceTime with Liz going forward with all this. Once again, I'm actually curious into looking into why they just, was it planned like this, or was there like particular reasons why, maybe like filming schedules and stuff like that, or maybe there were just personal things going on that they just couldn't get like Megan Boone like on set to like film some of this stuff, like, or maybe this was always like the narrative decision they had already made, and like they, kind of very similar like Snowpiercer, like how Jennifer Connelly, her character was like going for like a good couple episodes, and then you get one entire episode about like what she was up to, and that ends up being like the only other episode she's in like for like the rest of the season. So I was wondering, like, once again, I don't know if there were extenuating circumstances behind that, and in this particular case, are there extenuating circumstances I just never looked into? I might do some research. That's the thing, I always say I'm going to, because I'm always fascinated, but I'm just always like, right, get so caught up with other stuff and just forget, but like I said, regardless whether I do or not look into that, I'm, like I said, still very excited for next week's episode to see where the hell all of this takes us going forward to the next episode of The Blacklist. So, really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.